we have talked about rare items before, like rare, mythical, legendary. So the same item, but with different tiers of rarity, which would also be better. We actually had a very early idea about this regarding crafting. Do you remember that?
That you could craft items in higher tiers depending on your crafting level and stuff?
Yeah, but I had an idea about there was a chance of it becoming, a legendary or mythical or something like that with better stats.
Yeah.
But we ended up not doing that.
So you just have to craft lots and lots of items to have a chance to get the good one.
The benefit of that is just to give players more. I mean, you give them more playtime. And you can also, become better than someone else, even though we as the developers don't release any type of new content. Like you could just have the highest tier and you can still get better and better items. And you could technically, if we wanted to, make an unlimited amount of tiers.
Yeah, that's true. And then it would just be a small upgrade over the regular item, right?
Yes, so if we make like a new boss, and it's the new best boss and you want to drop the best items, we wouldn't in that case worry about, if it's maybe better than the most rare, tier of the previous one. And, we would just let the players try to grind more items of the new one instead.
That makes dupes more valuable because they can still be used to essentially gamble for better items.
Yeah. So anyway, now I wasn't thinking about crafting, but just items in general. And what we think of this idea. I know we have talked about it before, but I don't remember if, did we have a final verdict on it? We haven't implemented it in the game. What we have.
Which idea are we talking about now?
We did talk about, and we actually have implemented some version of this, because I know you made for the interface that you could have a mythical type item.
The rare and legendary with the different background colors and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So if I remember this correctly, or maybe you can explain how it works right now.
Right now, it's just, I guess, a proof of concept. So you can either set in the item data, just say that this is a rare item or this is a legendary item. And if they have that tag, they will show differently when you hover the item. The background will become either, I think, golden, yellow, something like that for rare items, and a bluish color for legendary items, and it will put a small text at the bottom near the value of the item where it will say legendary or rare. So that's the one way to do it. The other way is just everything above level 40 is also automatically a legendary item, and everything above, I think, level 20 maybe is a rare item. But that's not how it's supposed to be. It's just a placeholder, temporary thing.
Yeah, and that makes sense for now, since we, the highest level content we have right now is tier 40. But it doesn't really make sense if you could be level 100, for example, in the future. Well, you could technically be whatever level right now, but we don't have gear for that tier. But so what I wanted to discuss here is we have two options to do this. Number one is the way we've been thinking recently. And that is we have, let's say, right now, we could have regular tier 40 gear, which you get from random NPCs, or you smith or craft it yourself. And then we have a raid, which drops a tier 40 item, which means it's a required level of 40 to equip it. But then it's actually just better in terms of stats, because it's harder to get. And
so it's actually on the level of maybe a level 45 weapon or even level 50 weapon.
Yeah, exactly. So you could have this required level 40 item with tier 50 stats, And then you wouldn't really get a better item than that until you get level 50 combat. And that would actually make those items more unique, and it would feel much better when you get that rare item from the boss or the raid. Yeah, so I like this approach. There's nothing wrong with it, and I would happily implement it in the game. But the alternative I wanted to discuss is to just do it randomly from every single creature, or maybe including crafting, smithing, skilling as well. And what the pros and cons of that is. Do you have any thoughts?
I like the part about the legendary weapons that you can use them for a longer time. So say you get a level 40 legendary weapon and it's equally as good as a level 50 weapon. You can then keep using that legendary weapon for a long time, making it more of a big deal. Because otherwise, if we have new weapon upgrades every few levels, you may only hold on to a weapon for, a few hours, and then you get an upgrade and you throw the old weapon away. So that makes the legendary weapon stay with you for a longer period of time, and I like that.
Yeah, it's more memorable, new core memory unlocked when you get that legendary weapon.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one thing I like about the essentially overpowered legendary weapons.
Mm-hmm.
And regarding just having a random chance of getting them, one problem with that is it could be kind of unfair. Like one player just randomly gets it at their first try, and others may have to grind and craft like hundreds of them to get the rare item. And I guess that's the nature of MMORPGs, that it's very RNG based. Maybe we could do some protection, dryness protection or something. So that's one thing I was thinking about. Another thing is if every item can be legendary or can be rare, just from the quality of the item, then we would either have to have dupes for every item in different qualities, or we would have to maybe have some add-on data structure that we can tag on to existing items saying this should have a legendary boost or rare boost. So it's an architecture problem as well.
Could you maybe store that on the account so you get an item, it's not a dupe of the item? Because I don't like that idea either, having to create millions of types of items.
So in a previous version of the game, a very early version, we had something called enhancement and enchantment. I don't know if that's the same thing. Enchantment. Yeah. So that was we made one weapon, I think, which you could go to an enchanting table and just enchant it and give it some extra powers.
Oh yeah.
And in that case, it was a lifesteal enchantment, and that was stored on the item data in the character save file. So the item in the config was just the pure item without the enchantment, and when you enchanted it, the game would put an enchantment object on the item and save it to your player save. So every time you loaded it or put it in your bank, that object followed the item into the bank or from storage and stuff like that. So that's how that worked. I guess that could technically work the same way for rare items and legendary items, but it was a lot to keep track of and added some complexity, and it was difficult to balance. So I think that's why we removed the entire enchanting system.
Yeah, it's tricky, this one. I'm not sure what I like personally.
So what are the benefits of having, let's say, if we split it up for just killing regular NPCs and you get your bronze dagger or whatever, what's the pros of having a possibility of it being rare or legendary and a bit stronger?
It's the dupe thing. I think it's really good because, when I've been doing my playthrough, for some, even just when I'm looking to get one specific item, like I need the alchemy item, I need the mushroom hat or whatever, and I end up getting 3 steel swords. Right now, I don't need them. We don't have trading in our game between players. It's not economy driven in that way. So the only thing I can do with them right now is to sell them for coins. And that that is fine. But I mean, it would be another, new awesome dopamine hit getting this mythical or rare item. So I think that would just make any grind more fun. Even though steel swords are still useful since I can sell them and buy other things, it's never big. It's just more coins. It could technically be just another coin drop.
Yeah, sure. One caveat I thought about here is if you're defeating enemies that are not in your level or at your level, then those legendary weapons would still be useless, right? They would, if you're killing level 20 enemies and you're like 35 and you already have level 30 gear, you don't need that legendary steel item that's level 20 equivalent or something like that. So that would still just be a sell to store item.
True.
So it's only ever nice to have when the drop you're getting is at your level, unless it's like maybe it's worth a lot more so you can sell it and make bank when you get one, or maybe you could deconstruct them and get something valuable from them, like some kind of rare or legendary gems or something that you can use to build other stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, another option is just to only make this like a combination of the 2 systems we've talked about here. And that would be to only make this available for big important drops. So it's only possible on a raid drop, for example, or a boss.
Yeah, raids and bosses.
But then again, it kind of like it kind of removes the whole point, in my opinion, because those would already be your best item, the most,
Yeah, they don't need to be even better than what they are.
They're already rare. So the only thing is with that is that you could, we give the players more time to play. Like if you want to play for hundreds and hundreds of hours and we don't have enough content for that, you could still just grind the same boss over and over. So that is a small bonus. But again, maybe it just removes the point a little bit, and we could just say it's, it's more work, and it would still be a big dopamine hit to get that item.
Yeah, I feel like games should respect your time so that they don't expect you to like grind for 100 hours to get like a +1 damage item. And that feels like, if you want to be as strong as possible for the meta, maybe you shouldn't be required to do all that farming. I feel like it's good that the game gives you an option to play for longer, even though maybe you've played through and completed all of the content. But I also feel like it shouldn't be like expected from the average player that they should have to grind something for hundreds of hours to just get a little bit stronger.
So do you think that would be the expectations? Like, yeah, because if we're talking about, +1 damage, you would still feel like, okay, now I have the best weapon when you get the best weapon, even though it would just be, that ordinary quality.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's tricky because MMORPGs in general are not really respecting the player's time, because the thing that makes things valuable and rare, I guess, is that you have to put in a lot of work to get it, and that's also the part that makes others go, "Oh wow, you're so amazing! You've got this super rare item. You must have worked really hard for it." And I think that feels good, but at the same time, I feel like sometimes you just want to get on with it and maybe do something else, and then being stuck in a super long grind doesn't feel good. So I don't really know where to find that balance.
But maybe this is the way to balance it for all types of players for us, because in general in our game we do really respect the player's time. Like, we try actively to avoid grinding literally everywhere. And maybe people in our game will miss that factor. Like, okay, so if everything is common, when we release the new best boss, we still maybe want to do it, or raid, we want to do it 1 in 8, to get it. So it's 8 hours to get the best item. That would be really nice for like the average dad who doesn't have time to grind for 100 hours. But what about those grinders? Obviously, there are a lot of those out there. Like, a lot of people can still do that. And this could be the one thing they could actually grind, while the dad still feels like he's not missing out too much, because there's not, a big enough difference. Especially like if we get up to the point where you do, 150 damage, if each quality just adds 1 damage, 1, 2, 3, the best tier does 155 instead of 150, you would barely notice the difference. But for the player who likes to grind, they can see this item. It's like, you can upload your YouTube video and say, oh, wow, or tell your friends, send a picture. I got this legendary item.
I guess each player would then have to make the judgment call if it's worth their time or not. It's not for us to say if it's worth their time. They can decide themselves.
Yeah.
So how about crafting? What do we think there? I think a big plus with crafting, if you have a chance to get a really good rare item, then there's always need for more crafting materials, even when you've crafted everything you need and you have better gear already. But it could still be worth using that maple log you got and create a bow and maybe get lucky and get a legendary bow.
I mean, the more we talk about this, the more I like the idea of quality tiers. Because, so if you don't know, in our games, once you get this new highest tier item and craft it, you level up instantly. There is no experience at all in our game. So while...
Or for skilling. We do have experience in combat.
Yes. But for skilling. So we didn't want people to grind skilling for hundreds of hours. So the difficulty in getting a new item is just the rarity of that material. So right now our game is very combat based. So if you want to craft the best leather body in our game, you get the leather from a high level NPC, and that's, the struggle to finally get that leather. But when you finally get it, you can craft it and instantly you level up, so you can go find the next leather. So that's how that works. And that means in our game, yes, you only need 1 or maybe a few of each material, like to create the full set, for example. But you never grind for like 100, leathers or 100 bars, for example. And this could be the implementation that gives this old school, like RuneScape type of skilling feel. Because someone could actually want to get 100 pieces of this leather to get the legendary item. But then again, on the other hand, the con is just, the random luck with it. Like in RuneScape, if you grind 100 logs to get that level, you would guaranteed get it. Here you could get 100 leathers and still your friend just get lucky on the first one and gets the legendary tier.
What do you think about maybe adding a skill element to it? So players who are more skilled at the game can have a higher rate of achieving these rare or legendary weapons. Maybe a small mini game or something where you have to be quick with your mouse, or maybe even some kind of puzzle mechanic, a timed puzzle. And if you solve it in time, you get the upgrade, the rare or the legendary item.
The idea is cool, but I feel like it's a lot of work. I wouldn't want the same type of puzzle for every single skill. And this is just a huge scope creep if we add, puzzles or, you know, mini games for each skill. I don't think that is the route we want to go down. Since we're a 2-man team, that would just mean a lot of game development.
To be fair, we don't have that many crafting skills. We only have crafting, fletching, and smithing, right? So it would only be, I think, 3 minigames in that case. I'm not saying we should do it. I'm just saying it's not that much work for just if we keep it at those 3 skills.
True.
But yeah, it's not really necessary. I just felt like if we put some skill into it, then you don't necessarily have to grind it for a super long time if you're good at the game, and it would mirror reality a bit more. So you could have a master blacksmith, and it's their skill and their experience that makes them good at it, not just random luck.
Yeah, it's like this guy always has the legendary items because he's just so good at that little minigame we created.
Yeah, cheating could be possible depending on how you make the puzzle. You could always make some script or something that helps you solve the puzzle faster or something like that. And that makes it just way too easy to get the legendary weapon, so that's a problem.
That's very true. And I mean, looking at other games, we could probably put down like all our times, available time into make anti-cheating things, and people would just still get around those limiting factors for the cheating.
You can never eliminate all cheating forever. New things always come up.
Yeah, so the other way to do it, which is much easier for us as developers, is just to make a remove the randomness after a while. I'm blanking on the word.
Yeah, dryness protection.
Yeah, exactly. So like after 100, it's either a guarantee or it gets more and more common after each leather you craft. And that would mean you can't do it forever, which is a nice bonus. And yeah, your friend probably won't get it the first leather they craft. It could be either impossible. So maybe you could only get, if we make 5 tiers of it, on the first time you do it, you can only get, the second tier. So you need to craft at least 5 just to have the chance to get the legendary or highest tier. And
that could be one way of doing it, or another way is just make it so it's always the next tier. Like the first time you'll get the rare item, the second time it will 100% chance be the legendary, and then the next time it will be the mythical or whatever. That would smooth out the curve for how many items people need to craft to make the best item, because someone maybe will go very rare on the first item and another player will get it instantly, but then they'll go dry on the second item, and by the time they've got the best legendary weapon or rare weapon or whatever we call it, they will have approximately the same items crafted.
Mm-hmm. So there is another way to do it when you mentioned that. And that is just, again, kind of to make this classic skilling thing. Like for crafting, we could make it guaranteed. And, or actually that is also, I didn't even think about that. That is also possible just for NPCs as well. It would still have the RNG factor for NPCs, but I should get to the point. So, for example, you could, after you've done 10, it gets tier 2, after 20, tier 3, after 40, tier 4, and after 100, tier 5. And that would just mean if you want to grind, you can grind the same item over and over and over. But for most people, they would just make maybe the first or second tier, and then they're like, yeah, I don't have 100 hours to do this. I will just leave it be and go have fun, do some PvP. We don't have PvP, but you get the point. And and the same could go for PVM, but you would still have the randomness of having to get that item. But after you get your 5th one, it's automatically the next tier. So what do you think about that?
I was thinking maybe if we have the system that you're guaranteed after 100 items, you'll get the whatever rarity you want. You could make it so that when you make your 50th or your 100th item of the same type, you'll get some material, in your inventory, like the refined maple log or something like that, and you can use that to craft the new item. So that would be like upgrade components, I guess, and you earn them by just crafting the same item over and over again.
What is the difference?
No, it's just another way of doing it, I guess, because the other way, it will feel random, even if it's not random.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're working your way up, I guess it will feel random if you don't know the mechanics behind it. You'll just, I randomly got this refined maple log, but actually it was because you reached 50 maple short bows or something.
Yeah, I think I lost you for like 30 seconds.
Oh, okay. So what I was saying was I think I like the dryness protection, but I don't like it being guaranteed at a specific rate, because that removes all the excitement from it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get this surprised, I randomly got this rare item. The happy surprise is removed when you get you have to do 100 of them.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't like going super rare either, super dry either. So that's why I was thinking dryness protection of some sort would be good.
Okay, but so personally, then I think a combination would be nice. I've always liked the idea of dryness protection, but not necessarily hard dryness protection, if that makes sense. So just basically that the more dry you are, the more the bigger the chance is for you to actually get the item. So it's not guaranteed at 100 exactly, but it just becomes very unlikely for you not to have it at 100. I don't know if other people, I never hear this idea from people. I don't know why. People always talk about this specific. So it would be really interesting to see if maybe someone on this video will leave a comment to let me know what you think about that, like specifically 100 or just bigger and bigger chance. I mean, there is a possibility if we do it this way that someone would calculate that, okay, going dry for 100, that's like a 1 in a million chance, and then some poor dude is at like 150. That would feel really bad.
Yeah, exactly. So you could make it more and more common until you reach like a point, maybe 1 in a million or something, where it's guaranteed. So you'd never go over 1 in a million.
Yeah, you could just make it so it rounds up, so it's 99%, and then when it gets 99.6%, that's just rounded up to 100 and you get it. So there would be a technical limit of maybe 121, but most people will probably get it around 100 if they're unlucky, and if they're lucky you can get it at number 20 or whatever.
Yeah, you could also make the chance of getting the item at it starts at minus 20%, right? So you have to get at least 20 of them before you even have a chance to get the rare item. So you can never luck out and get it on the first try.
Mm-hmm. So it feels like we've come to some sort of conclusion here. So the idea would basically be that, yes, it's worth it to have these kind of tier things. We want it to be random, but not completely. And we want it for both crafting and PVM. Do we agree on this?
I think it could be good, but I don't know if it should be for all items. Maybe it should just be for items over a specific level or something like that, because I feel like a legendary bronze dagger is still crap, and I think it waters down the concept of legendary and rare items.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, maybe it should should have some kind of qualifier that it has to be over this value or over this level or something like that before it's even possible that they become rare or legendary. Another thing, we could have two systems where one of them is the quality of an item, and it's for crafting specifically, and it could be monster drops also, where it's like, you can call it like masterwork or something, and that just means a master craftsman has created this. And mythical or legendary, those are more about rarity and maybe they have some magic properties or something like that. It's a historic item, maybe a king has worn it for centuries ago or something like that. So that legendary drops would be like raid drops. Legendary items would be raid drops, and masterwork items would be crafted.
I like that idea. It's one of those things that makes it feel like the game becomes a bit more alive. It feels like there's a bit of thought behind it.
Yeah, that also makes more sense. I mean, you could make a masterwork bronze dagger, and it still wouldn't be like amazing or anything like that. But it doesn't mean that when you get your first legendary item from a raid, you've already had like 20 legendary items before it, and most of them are junk. So that legendary tag doesn't mean that much because you've seen it hundreds of times already. But the masterwork thing could work a bit differently. So that's a plus with that kind of system.
Okay, so regarding that point, we could do it. So, okay, this is a raid. And that means that this is, a harder to get item. It will be by default. And we could say, okay, so the raid items can have this legendary quality, while normal PvM drops don't. The problem is still that, we have raids for level 10 and 20 and 30.
Yep.
Should that be available? And I mean, at that point, just killing a level 60 NPC would be harder for you. So maybe that doesn't make sense. So we still might just want to pick out specific items. Or maybe, we have this type of requirement that, you need to be, or the raid or NPC needs to be at least level 50 before you can even get this. So it's not possible to get legendary items even from raids when it's lower. But the problem there is still that, okay, so what we feel is end game for our game might not be in the future. So we think like, tier 50 is good. And then it ends up, in a few years, you're like tier 50, that's mid-game at best. And you start getting these legendary items. Would we just remove them and set in another higher requirement? Or what would we do then? Thoughts?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think maybe that we could do something like the earliest game raids wouldn't drop legendary weapons or armor at all. They would maybe just be rare or something. And then as you go higher, the possibility of rare items gets higher. The possible tier gets higher. So then maybe at level 50 you get legendary, and level 80 you get mythical, something like that. And we could always, if the leveling and raids and stuff progresses further, we could add more rare tiers.
I love that. That sorts that problem completely. Like we would just add divine and we're good.
Yeah. And I also think that since the XP curve is so exponential, I feel like we can still be pretty sure that we won't have level 200 raids. It will probably always be at, the high end with all, and end game will be around level 100. It won't go up to like 400.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we have a good idea of what we want to do. The specific drop rates and things like that we will have to discuss again when we are there, because today we only have tier 40 enemies and raids and such, and we already know that will be like mid game in the future. Yep. So there's no point in actually adding these things today. Although I think it's cool that we already have like the interface and icons for these things. It all but guarantees that we will actually do something like this in the future.
Yeah, and it gives us something as devs to look forward to as well.
Yeah. And I actually think it's kind of cool that we recorded this, because now we don't have to discuss this again in 2 years. We can just listen back to this. And maybe we have changed our opinions by then, but we could at least get an idea of what we were thinking back in 2026.
Maybe it's a nightmare to implement, and we just scrap the whole thing.
Yeah. But I always love just discussing these kinds of things. I never get bored of game development or just, talking about game creation in general.
Yeah,
it's fun.
It's fun.
I think we will upload this video to YouTube. So if you like the concept of these podcast type videos, please leave a like and maybe a comment. Not only about the concept, but if you have any ideas of how to implement these things, something we maybe didn't think of, we would love all kinds of feedback. So thank you for watching.
And if you have any ideas or questions, like anything else you would like us to have a discussion like this, a topic, you can post that as well, and we will consider it.